Unit 5, Formula 1, Day 2, factoring. Alright, so I'm going to teach you guys how to factor. The main thing you got to remember is I'm going to give you this structure. Okay, but you got to understand what factoring is. Factoring is when you're dividing. Okay, you're trying to find what multiplied together to get this answer. Okay, so our first problem is x to the second plus 2x minus 15. So I'm going to teach you, you're going to make a box. So go ahead and just draw that box. Okay, we did this when we did multiplying. So if you remember, we made our box with multiplying as well. We're actually going to go backwards this time. Okay, so x to the second is going to be in the top left every single time. Okay, the negative 15 goes in the bottom right. Okay, these two boxes need to add up to your middle term, so positive 2x. Okay, so that's how you start. And so if they're going to add up to 2x, we know they're both going to have an x in it. So make sure you have that written down. That's how every problem is going to start. Okay, and then what you have to do after that is take a times c. Well, a, if you remember, it's ax to the second plus bx plus c. So a is the first number, c is the last number. So this first number right here is missing. So that means it's a 1. So you have 1 times negative 15. Well, that's negative 15. So once you take a times c, you put that number off to the right, and then you say, okay, what's going to multiply to negative 15? So what are some things that will multiply together to get 15? Well, 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. Those are the only two sets of numbers that will multiply together to get 15. So then what you do is you say, okay, well, which one of those can add up to this middle term? Which one can make that 2? Okay, so 3 and 5 can make the 2 by subtracting if I take 5 minus 3. So we're going to put a minus sign with that 3. Because if I take 5 minus 3, I will get my 2x. Okay, so then those are the numbers I'm going to use. So you put them in the boxes, and it does not matter which order you put them in. Okay, so now we have all the information we need in our boxes. So now we need to factor things out. So what we do to start is we look at just the top two boxes. So we have x to the second and negative 3x. Well, what do those two boxes have in common? Well, they both have an x. Okay, so then what you can do is you can look at this x and say, okay, x times something up here equals x to the second. Well, x times x equals x to the second. Okay, then you say x times something is negative 3x. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. Okay, and then you start with this one up here. X times something down here makes 5x. So you need a 5. Okay, now we're almost done. We just have to put our answer into two sets of parentheses. Okay, our first answer comes right here with an x and a 5. Now if it's positive, that means the plus sign, so x plus 5. And then the second answer comes up here, so x minus 3. All right, let's try another one. X to the second minus 2x minus 35. Okay, so first things first, we make our box. Okay, we put our first thing, so our x to the second in the top left, our negative 35 in the bottom right. Okay, we know these have x's. And now these two are going to add up to this middle term, which is negative 2x. Okay, so that's how we set up every problem. So hopefully you start getting the hang of that. Your next step is to take a times c. So we have 1 times negative 35 makes negative 35. So we got to think of all the different things that multiply together to get negative 35. So you have 1 and 35, and then you have 5 and 7. Those are the only two. Which set of those numbers between 1 and 35, 5 and 7 could make a negative 2? Well, we know 5 and 7 could make a 2. Okay, and if I want it to be negative 2, I need my bigger number, so the 7, to be negative. So I'm going to put my 5 here and my negative 7 here. If you flip-flop those around, the 5 and the negative 7, you will not get the wrong answer. You'll be fine. Okay, so it doesn't matter which order you go in. All right, and then from there, so now I have all my information in the box. So I look at the top two boxes, x to the second and 5x. What do those two have in common? Well, they both have an x. Okay, and then you say, okay, x times something equals x to the second. X times x equals x to the second. And then you say x times something equals 5x. X times 5 equals 5x. And then over here you say x times something equals negative 7x. Well, negative 7. Alright, and then your last step is to put your answer into your parentheses. So over here on the left we have x minus 7, and on the top you have x, and since it's positive, plus 5. Alright, let's try another one. 3x to the second minus 25x minus 18. So you start by making your box. Okay, in the top left is your 3x to the second. Bottom right is your negative 18. You know you have x, x, and you know these two have to add up to negative 25x. Okay, so same pattern. This time we have a 3 in front. That's okay. Alright, and then we take a times c. Okay. Alright, so if we take 3 times negative 18, we're going to get negative 54. So we have to think of all the different things that multiply together to get negative 54. So you start with 1. 1 times 54. 2 goes in there times 27. 3 times 18. 4 does not go in there. 5 does not go in there. 6 times 9, and that's it. Okay, you'll get better at that the more you do. Now, which set of numbers can add or subtract to add up to our negative 25? 2 and 27. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 and 27, but now in order to make it a negative 25, I need my bigger number, so 27, to be negative. Okay, so put those in the boxes so you can put your 2 up there, your negative 27 down here. Again, it doesn't matter which order you put it in there. Okay, and then what you do is you look at your top two boxes, 3x to the second and 2x. What do they have in common? Well, they both have an x. Then you look at your numbers, 3 and 2. Can anything go into 3 and 2? No. Okay, so we have x over here, so we say x times something made 3x to the second. Well, 3x times x is 3x to the second. And then we say x times something gives you 2x, so 2. And then you say 3x times something gives you negative 27x. Well, 3 times negative 9 makes negative 27. Alright, so now I have everything I need, and I just need to write my answer in my 2 sets of parentheses. So I have x minus 9 and 3x plus 2. Okay. Last one, 2x to the second minus 13x plus or minus 7. So make my boxes. Top left box is 2x to the second. Bottom right box is negative 7. We have x, and they add up to negative 13x. Okay, then you take a times c, so 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. What are some things that multiply to get 14? 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. Which one of those can make a 13? Well, 14 and 1 can make 13 if you subtract them. To make it a negative 13, I want my bigger number negative. Okay, so I have 1 and I have negative 14, so I put those in my boxes. Okay, once you're in your boxes, you look at the top two. 2x to the second and negative 14x. What goes into both? You can divide both by a 2, and they also have an x in common. Okay, so then you say 2x times something is 2x to the second. We already have a 2, so 2 times 1, and then you need an x. Okay, and then you have 2x times something is negative 14x. Well, 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. And then you have 1x times something is 1x. Well, 1x times 1 would give you 1x. Okay, and then put your answer in parentheses. Okay, the first one would be 2x plus 1. The second one is 1x minus 7. Alright, so we can try some of those now.